Should the Texans sign Derrick Henry? A case has been laid out. Is Derrick Henry a better option than Saquon Barkley? Say it ain't so. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop. Won't stop. Yeah.
All right. So the Texans got their coaches back. Bobby Slowick and Gerard Johnson will be back. Should the Texans next be looking to add a running back? The answer is yes. The question is really which running back do they want to add? It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 and on the Odyssey app. Seth Payne, Sports Radio 610, he laid out the case for Derrick Henry. I've been Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, all that. Seth Payne laid out the case for Derrick Henry. This was the case laid out by Seth. He thinks that Derrick Henry not only is the better option, he thinks that Derrick Henry is actually the better scheme fit. Here was the Derrick Henry case laid out by Seth Payne earlier this morning on Payne and Pendergast, which you can hear 6 to 10 Central on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app.
What do you do with the running back room? Do you have to you got to start
sign Derrick Henry?
Yeah,
simple as that.
You're talking me into Derrick Henry as to putting him at the top of my free agent power rankings for running backs.
The biggest thing about Derrick Henry, all of those reservations you have about older running backs, yes, they're accurate. You should worry about it. And yet, Derrick Henry is an extreme throwback in a lot of ways in that he's been remarkably durable. Mm-hmm. Only one season in which he didn't play at least 16 games in his career. And in 3 of the last 4 years, he's had the most rushing attempts in the NFL. Now, if I were to tell you, hey, he's had 3 of them, 3 of the last 4 years, he's had the most rushing attempts in the NFL. And that means he's going to rush for 1,500 yards next year. You should shoot me in the head. That's dumb. But if I were to tell you, look, he's been incredibly durable. He's built like he looks like he should be durable, kind of like a Frank Gore, perhaps. He doesn't have to lead the league in rushing attempts next year. I think that's where, and then the big thing too is he's got great, productive, successful experience in a zone running scheme. He can run gap scheme if that's what you need to. Like, he's very adaptable. There will be a scheme fit with him in a way that it can actually help your offensive line.
Yeah.
The cohesion between your quarterback, the running back, and the offensive line in this scheme is very, very important. And in a lot of ways, he can be a leader in that regard. And he doesn't have to be the bell cow.
Right now, the Derrick Henry market value on Spot Rack is like less than $7 million, which I think is kind of silly. I find it hard to believe that that's going to be the market value. I also find it hard to imagine that Derrick Henry would be in a Texans uniform. And that's nothing other than just watching him just completely rough them up in recent years, really outside of this year. At one point, Derrick Henry had 4 consecutive 200-yard, 2-touchdown games against the Houston Texans. To put that in perspective, I saw an article where it said that not only had a player never done that against a team, a player had never had 4 such games in NFL history. And there were like some all-time greats that had 3. The scheme fit stuff is that a lot of people will start talking about. And I think a lot of times people are just trying to pretend to know what they're talking about. I don't think Seth is one of those guys. Like, I've seen, Jacobs is the right guy. Eckler's the right guy. Oh, Tony Pollard could be the right guy. I was hearing that Dameon Pierce was the right guy last year. I still think you draft a running back. I still think you could bring back Singletary. But for me personally, if you can get Saquon Barkley, even if you have to overpay, I would overpay, because the positions that are the most expensive, you have young guys at cornerback, edge, quarterback, receiver. So tackle, and you're already paying that. So you can for a guy that can make an impact potentially like a Saquon Barkley, you can overpay for him. However, Seth and Sean are not big on the Saquon Barkley thing, and I'm intrigued to hear y'all's reaction on this. This was them laying out, and you already heard Seth make the case for Derrick Henry. This is them trying to, and KB saying he needs a team-friendly contract for what? It doesn't need to be. Running back contracts are already team-friendly at this point, based on the impact they have and based on the lack of value they have. I'm a Saquon guy. Mike says Google me. I don't need to Google you because I agree 100% with you. I'm all in on that. Will says that Derrick Henry doesn't fit a zone scheme. Okay, whatever. I mean, I'm not doing the internet scheme fit stuff. Seth says he does, and I don't take like everything as the gospel. Like if Seth says it or anything, but he says he does. You say he doesn't. The scheme fit stuff is just people trying to sound like they know what they're talking about 9 times out of 10, at least in my experience. But here was Seth laying out the case for Derrick Henry and saying he would rather have him than Saquon.
Both from an injury standpoint, and like he's undependable both from an injury standpoint
He's talking about
and just a
Saquon.
game by game productivity standpoint or a carry by carry.
Mhm.
It's not, it's a lot of boomer bust with him. And I just don't trust that as like what I want to really establish that ability to week in, week out, run the ball, set up the play action, do all those things, and to run the ball successfully. I know you don't have to run the ball successfully to set up the play action, but it sure as hell helps when you only have to convert a 3rd and 4 instead of a 3rd and 9.
Absolutely.
The play action doesn't really help you a lot on 3rd and 9.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I think somebody's going to pay Saquon Barkley
Yeah.
a good amount of money. I just don't want. I want nothing to do with a big running back contract.
Yeah, I definitely don't want Saquon Barkley at the annual amount that he got this year, which was like $12 million. I don't know that I want any of these guys at $12 million. I'm shopping in that $6 or $7 million aisle at the most when it comes to running backs.
And for me, I think that's silly. I think that's the mindset that a lot of teams have, and I think that's the mindset that is silly. That's not the mindset that has the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. If they would have thought that way, they wouldn't have traded for Christian McCaffrey, and they damn sure wouldn't have inherited that running back contract. So I disagree with Sean. If it's 12 million, hell, if it's 15, give me Saquon. And I think it's a good discussion to be had. I think there's 2 comments here. And appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe, like Locker Room. We're in the off season, baby. Going to the big game next week. Going to be there all week long. Going to be bringing you content, shorts, videos. I'm gonna Brick Factory this weekend. A video will drop every day, and it's going to be a fun time. So get your game face ready for that. This is the Saquon dialogue that you have, though, and this is beautiful. Appreciate George for coming through. Barkley is a walking injury. USG 421. I think Barkley is a younger and ready to rekindle his greatness with a young offense in CJ. And that's kind of where I sit. Like, I feel like a lot of the dialogue about Saquon Barkley is very similar. Like it's borderline proportional to what was being said about Christian McCaffrey before the 49ers traded for him. Man, he gets hurt too much. Man, they don't win. Man, you don't need to pay a running back like this. Man, there's been a little bit of disappointment. Like you've heard all that stuff. For me, I do not subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to that theory. I think that Saquon Barkley in this situation, I think it would be much like it was for Christian McCaffrey, a breath of fresh air. I think he would be excited to be competing. I think he would be excited to be competing with a team on the edge of being elite like San Francisco with the Texans. So I do not subscribe to that feeling. I think that Saquon Barkley comes in here and Saquon Barkley is motivated and ready to go. And I think the Christian McCaffrey comparison is valid. I can hear the Derrick Henry case. I think it was just laid out pretty well. But for me personally, it's Saquon Barkley or it's Josh Jacobs. It's one of those elite guys. Even if you have to pay a little bit, again, your guys that you usually pay the most for, they're on rookie deals. So for me, it's Saquon. For Seth, it's Derrick Henry. What say you? It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans daily digital content. Who do you want at running back? Do you want to go Saquon or do you want to go Derrick Henry? Plenty of time to get into everything else. This one's going to be a quicker one, but we'll keep it going, man. No off days. We're all in it together when it comes to this Texan stuff. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Who you got? Saquon, Derrick Henry, Barkley. Shout out to everyone coming through. Shout out to the System Fit Mafia as well. Fun times, baby. Get me a running back, though.
So, yeah, you know what we local lines. We really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for